Let's talk about leadership. It's one of those words that's just everywhere. We talk about it in business, politics, you name it. And we all think we know what a good leader looks like, right? But the second you try to pin down an actual definition, well, that's when it gets messy.
So really, what is leadership? If you look it up, you'll find a million different definitions, a million different theories. Everyone's got an opinion. But does all that noise actually help us figure out what it is or how to do it? For most of us, the answer is no. It just leads to this one very specific feeling. And that feeling has a name: pizzled. One scholar actually coined that term, and it means being simultaneously pissed off and puzzled. You know the feeling, right? It's that deep frustration of knowing something is super important, but you just can't seem to get your hands around it. So in this explainer, we're going to try to find some clarity. And to do that, we first have to tear down the three biggest myths that keep us all so pizzled. Okay, let's dive right into myth number one. This is the oldest one in the book: the idea that leaders are just born that way. This is that classic great man theory, the belief that some people just show up in the world with all the heroic, leadery stuff already built in.
Now, this whole born leader idea has kind of changed shape over the years. It started with that heroic great man. Then it morphed into researchers trying to create the perfect checklist of leader traits. Eventually, people started to admit, okay, yeah, the situation probably matters too. Which brings us to the modern view, where traits and situations interact. But notice that common thread? The core idea that it all starts with some kind of innate quality? That part has never really gone away.
And, there's even some data that seems to support this. Really rigorous studies on twins found that your genes can account for up to 32% of whether or not you end up in a leadership role. And when you first hear that number, 32%, it sounds pretty high, doesn't it? It feels like a point for the born leader team. But we gotta look a little closer.
Because that 32% is not what it looks like. First off, it only measures who gets the title, not who's actually any good at the job. Second, it's really just reflecting our own biases about who we think should be a leader. And here's the kicker: it leaves a massive 68% that's all about your environment, your experiences, your choices. So the real story here is the exact opposite. Leaders are overwhelmingly made, not born.
Okay, let's tackle our second myth: the idea that you can boil leadership down to a simple universal checklist. This one is so appealing, isn't it? Because it promises a clear, easy-to-follow recipe for success. I mean, look at a model like this one, the Leadership Challenge. It sold millions of copies, and you can totally see why. It's so clean, it's organized, it gives you 5 practices, 10 commitments. It feels like a roadmap to greatness. Just do these things, and bam, you're a leader. But that's exactly where the trouble starts. This quote from one of the sources really nails it. Anytime you hear the word universal, it should be a bit of a red flag. The world is way too complex for a one-size-fits-all answer. These models can be great starting points, for sure, but they are not the whole story, not even close. Or take another huge one: strengths-based leadership. The idea is simple and honestly pretty inspiring. It says, hey, stop worrying about your weaknesses. Just double down on what you're naturally awesome at. It's all about focusing on your assets. But what happens when we take these simple, elegant models and apply them too rigidly in the real world? Well, this is what happens. This is a true story from the research. A hiring manager rejected a fantastic candidate. Why? Because the candidate's number one strength was activator, and they already had an activator on the team. So in the name of diversifying strengths, they made a completely illogical choice that probably hurt the team. It's a perfect example of how these simple checklists can totally backfire when you treat them like gospel. And that brings us to the third and final myth: the idea that leadership is just a title. It's a rank, a position, the nameplate on the corner office door. We're sort of trained to think the person with manager or CEO next to their name is the leader, and everybody else just follows. But this way of thinking creates some really unhelpful divides. First, we've got to separate the leader from leadership. When we say leader, we're usually talking about one person in a formal role. But leadership? That's the process. That's the collective, messy, human thing that happens when people work together to make something happen. The focus shifts from just one person to the whole group dynamic. And the second big divide we get wrong is between management and leadership. Look, management is absolutely essential. It's what keeps the trains running on time. It's about efficiency and keeping things stable. Leadership, though, is about change. It's about growth and tackling messy, complex problems. One is not better than the other, but they are definitely not the same thing.
Your title gets you the management part, but it doesn't automatically make you a leader.
Simon Sinek just puts it perfectly. Leadership is a choice, not a rank. Your job title gives you authority, sure, but that's it. Leadership is an action you take every day when you choose to care for the people around you. It's something you do, not a position you have. So if leaders aren't just born, when there's no magic checklist, and it's not about your job title, what's left? Well, it actually pushes us toward a completely different, kind of radical way of looking at it all. It forces us to shift the question from who is the leader to how is leadership happening here?
And this new way of thinking is called leadership as practice. The big idea is that leadership isn't some quality a person has. It's something that happens, something that emerges from the nitty-gritty details of how people talk and work together day in and day out. It's all about what we do together.
Here's a cool way to think about it. The old view is like being in building mode. The leader has a blueprint, a plan, and they act on the world to make it happen. It's about control. But this new practice-based view is more like a dwelling mode. You're not acting on the world, you're acting with it. Action unfolds as you cope, respond, and adopt in the moment. Leadership isn't a blueprint, it's a conversation. Okay, but this leads us to a pretty mind-bending question. If leadership is just this fluid thing that pops up in our daily interactions, is it even real? Or, as some scholars have asked, is it just a social fiction, a story we tell ourselves to explain why some groups succeed and others fail? That's a heavy thought, right? But the answer isn't to just throw up our hands and say, well, I guess leadership is fake. The answer is to completely reframe our relationship with the idea. We need to stop searching for the perfect definition out there and instead become the authors on our own understanding of leadership.
And that's really the ultimate takeaway here. The goal is to develop your own personal, informal theory of leadership. It means you take the concepts from the books, you take the models, but then you mix them with your own life, your own experiences, your own values. The point isn't to find the answer. It's to build an answer that actually works for you.
This quote from someone in a leadership program just captures this shift so beautifully. They said they used to think of leadership as a coat you put on when you go to work. But after this shift in thinking, they realized it's more like your skin. It's just part of you, woven into everything you do. You can't just take it off.
And that's where we'll end. Forget the myths, forget the checklists. The real journey is to see yourself as having the power, the agency to write your own definition of leadership. It's not a puzzle with one right answer. It's a practice you build, it's a story you write, and it's a skin you grow into every single day.